So I want to start by talking about who should be on your action team and why it really matters. Now, what's really important to remember is that it isn't about having a big team or having the perfect team. It's not at all about numbers. What really counts is that it's about having a handful of people that share your passion and actually want to improve mental health and wellbeing outcomes. And they're people who are open to collaborating around a shared frustration and actually want to turn it into action and do something with it. Now, just to share a quick story from my own experience, when I first created my first ever community mental health action team in my own local town, I started with just 3 other people. So I invited a local doctor, a local community resource centre manager, and a local businesswoman who was also a parent at the school where I worked when I worked in education. Now, that team has evolved considerably over time, but really it all just came from that starting point. It just started with 4 people who felt passionately around a cause, and really at its heart it was about one person making the choice to step up and invite those people to come and have that conversation. And from that one simple move, a huge amount of success has been created. You know, there's been considerable ongoing funding and really long-lasting sustainability around trying to improve mental health and wellbeing outcomes in a local community. And like I said, just from one person making the choice to actually step up and invite some other people to have that conversation. So today I'm going to share with you 3 types of people that I really want you to consider inviting to your team and why those roles can make such a difference. Now, before I get into that, one of the biggest challenges that I see isn't that people necessarily want to do it alone. It's that they're not really sure or confident about actually stepping up to make that first step and starting that conversation and inviting others in. And it actually takes a little bit and a little bit of confidence. You don't have to be confident. You can build that if you don't have it. But a little bit of self-belief and courage to actually be the one who says, well, what if we stopped working in isolation? What if we stopped working in silos and actually started working together to try to create a solution, a shared solution, and actually walking this road together in order to make it happen? And I think it's really important because the truth is community-driven solutions don't happen in isolation. I mean, at the heart of the whole statement is the word community. So we actually have to have conversations across the board. And I think for a long time, we've tried doing it in isolation and by ourselves in our different sectors. And people are literally burning out in the process trying to make it happen. Now, the reason this community shared approach really works is that team approach creates connection and it creates energy amongst this group of people who want to make change happen. It absolutely creates momentum and it really creates a shared responsibility around such an important topic, and it helps to make the work that you do much more credible and much more sustainable, which is really important. Now, I want to remind you not to stress if your team isn't big, or perhaps if you're just on your own at the moment and you haven't even got started, because from little things, big things grow. I've said this a lot, and I think you've heard that in my own story. What is most important in all of it is that you take that first step and actually focus on bringing people together who have a shared passion for wanting to make things better and wanting to collaborate around that shared priority. All right, so let's just do a quick little fun thing before we dive into to talking about the 3 people you should invite in. I just want us to reflect on ourselves first before we think about the others that we should bring in. So I want you to drop an emoji in the chat, regardless of whether you're watching this live or in the replay. I want you to drop an emoji in the chat based on which role you really naturally lean into when I say them in a moment. I want you to drop an emoji based on the one that connects with you and you feel aligned to. So first of all, do you feel that you're a connector? So you really like to bring people together, you like to network, you like to invite people in and bring people in who could, make things improve. If that's you, I want you to drop a light bulb into the comments. If you think that you're an action taker, so you're someone who just wants to get in there and start making action happen, and you want to start making action happen yesterday, like you just want to get in there and start doing. If that's you, I want you to drop a lightning bolt into the comments. If you're someone who comes to this with a passion because you have your own lived experience, either through supporting someone else or supporting yourself, or trying to navigate the system, whatever it might be, and you're someone who really keeps the work grounded because you can really talk from a perspective of experience in terms of trying to navigate what's going on, I want you to drop a love heart. Doesn't matter what colour. Drop a love heart into the comments. And if you think, well, I'm a little bit of all of those things, can't really pick one, I'm a bit of everything, then I want you to drop a rocket into the comments. Now, if you're none of those things, because you think, well, I'm something, but it's not one of those, it's something else that I do that I think is really valuable, that I can bring to the table, I just want you to pop the emoji you think that would suit you into the chat, and let's see if we can guess what it is that you might bring to the table around this community-driven solution. So pick which one you think is right, drop it in the comments, and I'll also drop it into the comments after this as well, so you can see what I consider myself to be in this space. All right, let's get on to the 3 people that you really should be considering inviting onto your team. Now, this doesn't have to be who you reach out to initially, because it might be, if you've watched any of my other videos, it might be that you're just reaching out to someone that you know, or someone you feel comfortable talking about. But when you're ready to actually build your mental health action team, or if you already have a team and you want to build it up, these are 3 key people to really stretch yourself to include, and I really want you to consider to help you build the momentum and the credibility of your team. Now, just remember, it's not about ticking boxes. You don't have to collect all the people and have every single one of them. That's not what is important, because like I've said a few times, what's most important is that the people you bring to the table are people that are passionate and want to be part of making a difference. But certainly have a conversation with yourself or with other people about these 3 people you could bring to the table. All right, in no particular order, these are the people I want you to consider. Firstly, there is educators. Okay, now, obviously, for many of you might know, I'm passionate about educators because I was one and I still consider myself one. The thing is, you might not know anyone who's an educator, and a lot of people feel a little bit daunted by the idea of walking into a school once they've left school themselves. For some reason, that whole educational institution can be quite a daunting place to walk into, but they're a really key place to bring insight into what young people, parents, families are experiencing every day. And they're a big demographic of people in our community. The other thing is that schools are often the first ones to notice some of the cracks that exist in the community and in this large demographic of people. And they're a great connection point for the community as a whole. So they're really, really important to consider. And there's lots of different people that exist within education. You know, we've got education assistants and we've got teachers, we've got the administrators and the principals, school psychologists and librarians. But it's really important to consider education as one of the areas that you try to invite. Another one, which is probably a little bit more obvious, is someone in health. Now, I say that because quite often teams come from one of 2 perspectives. They might be all health, so they need to think about those other groups to invite, or they might be all outside of health as people who are passionate. So it is important, if you haven't got a representation of health on your team at some stage, it doesn't have to happen at the beginning. You don't need to have someone on health to make your team viable. But over time, it's great to invite someone from health. Now, there's a huge list to choose from. We have nurses, we have doctors, we have allied health workers. We've got someone in the who works in the local community health space. We've got a pharmacist, we've got a local counsellor. I could just keep going. There is a huge range of options here. But what's important is that obviously they bring expertise and credibility, but they also bring a different perspective on local needs. They have amazing insight into the local health system that you may not have otherwise, and the constraints that currently exist in the local area around the health system. But they also provide fantastic connections to outside resources, such as the country health services in the local area and the wider network, and suicide prevention resources and alcohol and other drugs, and many, many connections that they bring with them. So that's really helpful. So don't hold yourself back. Like I said, if you don't have someone in health, don't prevent it from making you move forward, but just it's something to consider as you go along, or if you already have a team. And the third category I want you to really think about including on your team is a community representative. Sorry, I just got something in my eye. I really want you to consider bringing along a community representative. Now, this list could be endless, like I just spoke about that in health, but this could be even more endless. But just to give a few examples, it might be a local sports coach, it might be a small business owner, it could be a local government counsellor, it could be a police representative, a local community leader, a community member, a representative from a group or a volunteer organisation. I mean, the list goes on and on. They are really, really valuable because they connect you with local networks, and they also help you to tap into local resources and really keep you grounded in the realities of what's going on in the local community. Often when people are in systems, they don't always quite see the constraints of the people who live in the community when they're actually trying to access the services. People can feel they know it, but they don't necessarily. So it's always really great to have a community representative who can tap into that side of things and really help you consider how locals are feeling around what's being delivered, and how they're currently getting access to information. They can also really help you tap into certain demographics that you can support, so that's really helpful. Now, here's the thing, you don't need exactly those people. Like I said, you don't need to check off a bucket list, but I really want you to consider when you're creating a team or inviting people in, whether you have those type of representatives or whether you've even thought of those type of representatives and how you could perhaps think to include them or reach out to someone, because you'll be surprised how often there is someone in that area who does feel passionate and they're waiting for someone to take that first step and sort of start that conversation. Remember, when you bring those people along, what you want from them ultimately, if they want people from each of those sectors, is you want people who share your frustrations about the gaps that exist, the cracks that you're seeing. They're willing to work alongside other people instead of working currently in their silos. So they're open to that idea of collaboration, and they really bring a passion and connection or lived experience to the table. But I want to say, you'd be pleasantly surprised that the majority of time when you reach out to these demographics that I've just described, there are always people in there that are wanting to do this and have that passion. They're just waiting for one person to make that first move. And I want to encourage you to be that one person to make that first move. Now, these three roles really give you guidance, but as I said, the energy and the passion is what they come with, and that's what we want to tap into. So right now, I want you to just take a moment and reflect. Who in your life do you know who already deeply cares about mental health and wellbeing, or is one of these 3 roles that I've just mentioned and that you could possibly reach out to. I want you to drop their role or their description or their name, and I want you to write it on a scrap piece of paper. Just grab a piece of paper next to you and write it down, because that simple action can be what moves the needle for you. And if you're feeling really brave, I want you to write their description or their role, not their name, because we don't want to call anybody out, but just write their role or description in the comments down here as not really a way to do anything for other people, but as a way for yourself to be accountable that I'm going to reach out to that person, because very often naming it is the first step to making it happen. So this week on that idea, take that person, make a list of 1. If it's 1 person, that is absolutely amazing. But anywhere from 1 to 3 people that you could approach for your team that you want to set up, or that you could reach out to, or that you could invite onto the current team that you have. 1 might be an educator, 1 might be in health, 1 might be a local community member. I want you to send them a text. Invite them to have a coffee, or just plant the seed. And you might say something like, hey, I've been thinking how we could improve wellbeing in our community. I was just thinking of getting a couple of people together and wondered if you might be interested in having a conversation about this. I was wondering if you would be might be interested in having a conversation about how we could improve wellbeing across our community. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Really simple, just reaching out, sending a text, saying that you're passionate about wellbeing. You just want to see if there's any other people who might be interested in just having a coffee about it and having a chat and seeing if there's something we can do across the community. Would you be interested? And it takes the onus off, if they're not interested, that's okay. But if you don't ever put it out, you're never going to know. But that's a really simple way to get started, and it's very, very powerful. So just remember, it's not about the size of your team. It's literally just about the shared passion and bringing people together and taking that first step to start making it happen. I'm going to leave us there. Thank you as always for being here. I'm really looking forward to seeing your emoji, so please drop them in. I'm going to go and drop mine in right now. And as always, let's stop watching the mental health statistics and let's start changing them. Until next time, I'll see you soon.